Hey, all you miraculous people out there, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with the Season 3 episode of Miraculous Ladybug, Bakerix. I'm no longer saying episode numbers because, man, are these episodes so out of sync, it's not even funny. I don't even know where this lies. I'm just gonna put a number there and just be like, there you go, figure it out from there. And that's just going to be how I do things from now on. Because a lot of these episodes of season 3 are just coming out of order. And I'm just going to try to keep up. Now, without further ado, let's get stuck in with Marinette watching the news with the announcement of the Star Trade. Now, this is actually something that we saw in the episode Backwater and was already up and operational and all that good stuff, and we even saw Adrian and all the others just riding on it. So it already lets me know that I'm just completely off the mark in terms of episode placement. But here's the announcement of this new technology. And Tiki makes note of the fact that this is a train that will be traveling underwater through the English Channel and, the Channel Tunnel. And this is something that is very new to Tiki. Now, the tunnel was actually created back in the late 80s. So, of course, Tiki wouldn't know anything about it as Master Fu had, the, box all locked up at least around the time of World War II, so way before this channel would have even been built. So of course Tiki knows nothing about it, but she sits in amazement over the constant progression of human innovation. We also are informed that it is Marinette's dad, Tom, Dupin's 40th birthday. So up until this point, he's been 39. So it's his birthday, and Marinette always knits him a sweater. But she wants to do something extra special for Tom this time around. We also see that Sabine is in contact with Tom's dad and is trying her best to convince him to come over for her birthday because they haven't seen each other in 20 long years. But it's to no avail. He is completely adamant about no showing up. And when Marinette kind of tries to question Sabine about this, Sabine says that it's something that she should probably talk to her father about. And, Tom doesn't really feel like opening up about this and passes it off to his mother. But even she is unwilling to give any information about this. Gina is very tight-lipped and says, oh, you should probably ask your parents about this. So Marinette just keeps being bounced around in terms of actually getting an explanation about this. So she decides to take matters into her own hands and finds his address and goes in order to meet him in this very old-fashioned, old-timely house. And it looks very lived in. I love the design with the old-fashioned car parked out front with all the rust. It looks very lived in. Gives me a very kind of Stuart Little vibe with the little house in between all the modern buildings and all that good stuff. But as Roland ends up getting in contact with Marinette through this little pipe system, every attempt that Marinette makes in order to get him to let her in is to no avail. He won't even let her in for, mail or anything like that. However, when Roland gets this flower delivery, Marinette uses this as an opportunity to try to sneak in and pose as the flower delivery person. And I love the design of Roland's home. It's very lived in, very homey. Has this wonderful design all over the place. Nice carpeting, the textures of the floor, the various photos all across, the little things to hold bread and the like. Just I love the amount of detail to this place, and you even see these old-timey TVs from the 50s and stuff like that, where color would have been like the next step in innovation and all that good stuff. And you even see all of his awards for baking. I just love the atmosphere of this place. However, Roland is taken off guard to see that it's not his usual delivery person, and Marinette says that she's got an internship for delivering bread. We also see that Roland has, three little mice helping him out with his baking, which is actually reminiscent not of Ratatouille as most would say, but apparently it's of this old story called A Percanas Mis Amas. Mismas, an old story about a baker who was helped by mice. So nice little French influences and themes going on here, but as Marinette does her best to find something to bond over with Roland, she notes all of the older appliances and applications that he has, and notes that wonders if his old TV works, which it doesn't. Honestly, my mom had an old TV from like the 70s, I think it was, and that only just recently crapped out a couple of years ago. So these things can last a long time, it's just that they'll burn out after a certain point, which as most technology will do after a certain point. Though I love, a few of my friends have made hookups to where you could actually like watch modern TV on an old television set. Honestly, my mom had a hookup of her HD TV to her old television set. So, a lot of this old technology can still hold up for the most part if you just know the proper wiring. But Marinette does her best in order to get Roland to kind of understand and start to try to get him to accept newer technologies and ways of doing things. But he's still stuck in his old ways. I also love this depiction of a younger Sabine, Tom, Gina. It's just really fascinating just to see them at a younger age. And, man, Sabine looks really cute here. Also, it really begs the question, what did Gina see in Roland? If he's so old-fashioned and stuck in his old ways, but Gina has this very modern look to herself, and just the way she does things, the way she acts, it just raises a lot of questions as to how they ended up pairing up. I need that backstory. I really do. But as Meredith basically starts to barge into Roland's life, and even tries to show him that she does understand how to make bread and the like. Roland is kind of taken with some of the thoughts and how she perceives how you're supposed to roll it and, knead the bread and spread it out and all that good stuff. And after a certain point, Roland basically challenges Marinette when she says that she might even be better than him. And he even shows off his prized possession, this ancient yeast that he usually uses that has been passed down the generations. However, once Marinette starts to question, Roland and his family life, he says that he has no family and he has no son because he pretty much broke off ties because they started adding rice to the dough, which, despite the fact that that gives it a little bit more, flavoring and heft and a lighter, fluffier taste, he finds that that's just not the way things are done. Tradition, and he basically broke things off because of the breaking of that tradition. He even find out he doesn't much care for pizza either, as he feels that tomato sauce and cheese and all this stuff shouldn't go on bread. You're supposed to enjoy it by itself. But Marinette challenges him to a bake-off. That way, if she is the winner, she'll have to agree to something that he will have to do for her. Ultimately, Roland agrees. However, when Marinette starts to sing this song, that Tom and Roland used to sing whenever they need bread, he kind of realizes that, oh, you must be, and Marinette just kind of spills everything out on the table. Over Roland, feeling deceived, is just completely livid about this whole situation, saying he has no granddaughter or son or anything, and pushes her out. But Marinette is determined to stay and get to know her grandfather, and even have him come to her father's 40th birthday party. But Roland, still goes forward with cooking the bread because, no baker worth his salt would just let good bread go to waste, no matter how angry he is. But feeling his anger across the ways, Hawkmoth uses this as an opportunity to akumatize Roland using the yeast as a catalyst, and he controls him and has him go out and become Bakerix, which is actually a reference. The whole Viking aesthetic that he has is actually a reference to an old, long-running French comic series called Asterix. Look it up; it's actually fairly good series, but a nice little reference and all that good stuff. System just shat itself. So Bakerix enters the fray. He's ready, he's here, and he is ready to just throw down and cause havoc. And he has this liquid by his side, the yeast, that gives him this pumped up bread action power. Naturally, Marinette transforms into Ladybug in order to set off after him. And as Bakerix goes about rampaging through the town, he notices the various modern conveniences of the world, and specifically a bus, and he chucks it because it's electric running. Naturally, Ladybug manages to save the people inside and confronts Bakerix as a new superhero on the block. Naturally, Bakerix is all kinds of cheese, feeling that the superheroing and saving lives is up to the police and armies and stuff like that. Newfangled superheroes have no place in his world. And as Nadia Shamak starts to report on the showdown, Adrian is just chilling in his room. It's just like, wait, what? And we actually see that Ladybug is engaged with Bakerix and tries to explain that, well, actually my power comes from this ancient force, but Bakerix is having none of it and be like, well, I didn't have any superheroes back in my day, so you're not having them now. And so Adrian transforms into Cat Noir and goes off to help out Ladybug. Meanwhile, Bakerix is getting more and more cheesed off after all the modern conveniences, and even has a showdown with Alia, at least because she's trying to film him. But then he notices the Louvre, which is the pyramid in the king's court, as he calls it, which is blasphemous. And as he goes to attack it, Cat Noir manages to block the attack. And they comment on the fact that it's a modern interpretation of an ancient form of design. So a merging of two different forms of convenience. However, Bakerix is having none of this, downs more of his super yeast liquid, and goes on a rampage, taking off the top of the Louvre, and imprisons Ladybug and Cat Noir underneath it. And Ladybug dissuades Cat Noir from using his cataclysm to help break them out, as they can just escape under the tunnels and the vent systems below. And as Bakerix makes his way to the Star Train, where the Star Train is being unveiled, he's then confronted by Ladybug, who tries her best to distract Bakerix from causing destruction, while Cat Noir lets various people off of the train. However, Chloe takes a moment to be like, well, maybe you could use the help of Queen Bee, but, Cat Noir kind of brushes this off, being like, well, you could take that under advisement, which is just like, it's a nice little acknowledgement of their presence within the series, but, Nino, Chloe, Alia, all them should at least be allowed to keep their Miraculous. I still feel that way to some degree, but with Chloe's identity being out, honestly, that might not be for the best. People could always just attack her if they knew she had it on her 24/7. Although, why not just kidnap her? But Bakerix then yeets the front of the train, And Ladybug sees this as a all the more reason to bring out the lucky charm in order to set this situation right. So she brings out a bottle of ketchup, and Ladybug uses her, miraculous vision in order to figure out how to use it. Meanwhile, Cat Noir clashes with Bakerix. Ladybug then comes in and shows a bunch of modern candies and foods between two slices of bread, which, Cat Noir, makes an attempt to make it sound like he's appealed by this, but Bakerix is undissuaded. However, once Ladybug starts putting ketchup on it and relates it to a pizza, Bakerix loses his shit and goes on the warpath. He ends up chasing Ladybug and Cat Noir outside to a vent where that Cat Noir uses his cataclysm on. That Bakerix falls through and ends up being trapped in the wind tunnel. He's also unable to down any more of his super liquid in order to gain more strength. And with the help of Cat Noir booping it out of his hand, Ladybug is able to take the flask, throw it to the ground, and de-evilize the Akuma. And she uses her miraculous power of creation in order to restore the train, the Louvre, and Roland back to his normal form. However, Roland is more concerned about the fact that he left bread in the oven and that his granddaughter was also there, so he's worried about her. But Ladybug assures him that she's probably okay, probably very resourceful as well. And as she's about to time out, she heads off while Cat Noir escorts Roland back to his home. And as they make it back into Roland's house, they find Marinette there, taking out the bread from the oven, ready to be tested. And they even use Cat Noir as a, guinea pig of sorts, in order to test out the bread and all that good stuff. And while Cat Noir ends up tasting it, he says, they're both good, but they can use a little jam, which they're both like, that's not how you taste bread, dude. And Cat Noir admits that both are tasty, but for various different reasons. One has a more traditional taste, while another has a more interesting and vibrant taste, and is a little bit more fluffy before he pieces out. And when Roland tries it himself, he actually really enjoys it, and Marinette admits to using rice the same way that her parents do. And she asked that now that he's tried the actual creation, maybe he might agree to actually coming and celebrating Thomas's birthday. And while Roland is a little bit taken aback by the whole situation with Marinette and all that, he can't help but ultimately agree, having seen the light to maybe newer things aren't so bad. And much to the surprise of Gina and Sabine, and a really touching moment with Tom himself, just that look he gives to actually seeing his dad is priceless, as Tom gets the most glorious birthday of all time. So, time spent with the dad he hasn't seen in years. This is a really sweet moment and a great way to end this whole episode. You basically more or less had your standard episode, but the introduction of Tom's own father really creates an interesting situation, and it's even more interesting by the fact that Tom Ostruck, the the one who directs this entire series, said that this was a great episode for him to write, and it gave him a lot of emotion specifically. And not to mention, he named Tom Dupin after himself. So there's a lot of connections here that we don't know about in terms of Tom's relation to his father. Well, Thomas Ostruck's relation to his father. So maybe there's something deeper there as well, which is sweet. This gave me a lot of emotions towards the end of this. But really, a great episode, a fun time. Not the most involved episode with a lot of characters, but I really did appreciate the writing overall here. Very solid, very fun, and had a lot of great designs and interesting ideas and just the way of going about things. Hopefully next we'll actually be able to find out more about Sabine's family more than her uncle. who showed up in, I think it was season 2 or whatever. Because we don't know both of her parents at all. Now we've actually met both of Tom's parents, and I'm still kind of questioning how Gina, Marinette's grandmother, actually got with a guy like Roland. Just doesn't seem like her type. But you'd be surprised, I guess. But a fun episode, a great time. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel about this episode, and did it give you the feels? And if you liked this video, feel free to give me a like. If you didn't, feel free to give me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another Miraculous Ladybug episode review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere. Now, after the technical stress I ended up having, I think it's time for bed. But until next time, just remember that you should always do your best to just accept family for who they are, or else you might end up missing out on something great. Tradition isn't everything if it ends up costing you your family. Bye-bye.